Good morning. After spending my last few weeks in the Dawn of the Hunt League on the Witch class and painstakingly pushing my Blood Mage to level 98, I started to look for a new build to play. And since I recently also played a Lightning Warp version on my Blood Mage, a lot of people pointed me into the direction of this Mjölner Wielding Warping Titan. So today I'm coming to you with a build that was most recently popularized by Korean streamer Aste, who has done a lot of innovation on this build ever since its inception. There have been quite a few Mjölner builds being tested before, but I think Aste here has found definitely one of the best versions that I have seen so far. So the build I'm presenting here today is heavily inspired by his take on this build setup, as this is one of the most fun and crazy builds I've played this league so far. Together with my stream, I will continuously try to find our own ways into building this character, innovating and finding new avenues to make this build even stronger in the future. Another small shout out here will go to Ol Hednar, who also has very recently done his own take on this build, which I personally found to be incredibly unique, adding Energy Shield as a defensive layer and overall just making improvements to this build. So both of these channels here will be linked in the description. Go give them a follow. They truly are paving the way here for this build, in my opinion. Everything shown in this video here will be in its own separate Mobalytics guide that will also be linked in the description. As I said, over the next few days, this build will probably go through a lot of changes and innovations. So if you want to stay up to date on that, the best way to do that is join my Twitch stream, where I am streaming every single day and will most likely be playing this build for the foreseeable future. So let's get into this Mjölner Wielding Lightning Warping Titan, basically the God of Thunder, Thor himself. Going over the character overview here first, you can see that this is a level 89 Titan. So that also means that you have to remember that all of these skills that I'm using here are not the level 20 version yet. So everything you have seen in the small clips in the beginning of the video or during the video here is all on level 19 skill gems. This character so far is level 89. I will keep playing this one and it will probably only become stronger over the next few days, especially when we reach the threshold of level 90 and being able to use the level 20 skill gems. We have 3000 life here. We basically leech back our life pretty instantly. This is also using blood magic, of course. So we are using our life as our mana here, basically. So every time we are earthquaking here with our pretty high attack speed, as I will go into that in a later stage here, why we have so much attack speed, we are always leeching it back and also healing it back due to time of need. The core unique of the build, of course, is the Mjölnir Torment Club here. We want the high attack speed. We want the level 19 spell on melee hit, of course. This is the absolute core of this build, of course. This Mjölnir here has a very high requirement of over 300 strength and also over 300 intelligence. The way of actually using this Mjölnir here is one, the Yarn Griper here. So strength can satisfy other attribute requirements of melee weapons and melee skills. So we don't need to fulfill the 300 intelligence here. You can see in my attributes that we have over 400 strength. We have 100 intelligence. This is due to some of the skill gems that we need to use, and also just over 100 dexterity also for the skill gems that we need to use. So you can see we do not need the 300 int that we would otherwise on this Mjölnir here. This is due to Yarn Griper. So this combination here is the absolute core of the build. Also, what we need in the build here is the Vertex Tribal Mask. The Vertex Tribal Mask makes it so that our equipment and skill gems have 50% reduced attribute requirements. This also gives us a lot of more room to go in the skill gem section, for example, so we can use some of the stuff that we would otherwise not be able to. So we can see here, for example, usually Herald of Thunder on the level 19 gem here would have a dex requirement of 191, and due to the Vertex Tribal Mask, this gets halved. So with our 100 dexterity here, we can actually use Herald of Thunder. This also goes for stuff like Blink, for example, which has 191 int, or Blasphemy here, and all of the below here, Wind Dancer, everything we couldn't be using here if we didn't have the Vertex Mask in this build. So these three uniques here are the absolute core of the build. Other than that, in the second weapon slot, we are using a two-handed mace here. The priority here is going to be melee skills, a very high physical damage, and then also attack speed. We are using a Mjölner with 20% attack speed here. We also want increased skill speed as a rune, and also we have increased skill speed as 2 runes in the two-hand mace here. The faster our attack speed is, the faster our earthquakes are actually triggering. So usually the earthquake animation is definitely very, very slow. And with our increased attack speed, this will make it so that when we are actually warping around, we are actually able to get the earthquakes out without being interrupted. This is very, very important. Otherwise, when we're just warping around and we just warp into the middle of a big group, we're just going to be interrupted and the earthquake is not going to trigger and the damage is not going to be there and we are just going to die. So attack speed, probably the most important thing here. Getting as much attack speed as we can on everything here is going to be a very, very high priority. So attack speed runes in here. Also on the passive tree, for example, I am using a Megalomaniac that is basically only attack speed. So Reaving is attack speed, Thrill of Battle is attack speed, and Acceleration is attack speed as well. We are also anointing on our amulet here. In this case, it is Deep Trance, which is also more attack speed. And also on the passive tree, there is as much attack speed as we can get on the passive tree as well. So attack speed, very, very important. The next important things here are gonna be the amulet and rings, of course. On the amulet, we want a spirit, we want melee skills, and we want as much attributes as we can, and then also maximum life. So defensively here, we want as much maximum life as we can get it everywhere. We want, of course, armor, and then we want to be also res cap. That is going to be our only defensive layer here in this version of the build. As I said, Mjölner, for example, had a very nice take on the build with energy shield. That is also something I will explore in the next few days. Maybe going a hybrid version like that could also be something that is really, really good. But defensively, we want maximum life, we want armor, of course, and then the armor, maximum life, and resistances, of course. So next thing is going to be the rings. Again, maximum life, attributes, resistances, and flat damage. Also very, very good to have. And if you can get it on this two-hand mace, this is also good. If you can get it on the ring here, leech is always going to be a very, very good as well. This is gonna be very, very heavily based on leech here. So getting a leech anywhere where you can for physical attack damage, it's also gonna be very, very good. On the second weapon set, we just have 2 Snakewood Great Hammers here. The base needs to be a Great Hammer here that is gonna cause more increased stun buildup. This is basically just for single target damage, so we can get as much stun buildup as we can and as much single target damage as we can due to these ones. So this is the overall setup of the gear here. You can see the gear on the mobilytics as well. Everything is explained in the mobilytics with the gear priorities and everything. So this is going to be it for the gear. Let's next go over skill gems. So going over the skill gems here, the most important one, as I already mentioned, is going to be Earthquake here. The Earthquake wants a low skill effect duration. We are getting lower skill effect duration in the case of Fast Forward here. Also, we are getting it on the passive tree. We're pathing all the way up here to just get the lower skill effect duration on this one. This is due to the fact that the major damage of the earthquake is not the first slam, but rather the jagged spikes that come out on the second one here. So I slam the ground, the earthquake, and then the jagged spikes come out of the ground. The lower skill effect duration makes it so that these jagged spikes in the end here come up much faster. So this is going to be very important to have not a big delay on the earthquakes here. So this is the main damage, and this just makes it so that we just warp around, everything is getting hit by the jagged spikes, and then the lightning spell on hit gets triggered by that. We also want as much area of effect as possible on this earthquake to make it as big as it is in my screen here. This basically hits the whole screen with this earthquake. So having it on a high attack speed, high area of effect, and a low skill effect duration is the main objective here in making this feel much smoother on the earthquakes here. So earthquake with fast forward, with reach, with martial tempo, with lightning infusion and magnified effect. The lightning spell on hit here is going to be 1 voltaic mark and 1 lightning warp. The assay version, for example, is using 2 lightning warps here. I really like the voltaic mark version where we put 1 voltaic mark. This makes it so that when we actually hit stuff with our earthquake, the voltaic mark gets automatically triggered with the lightning spell on hit already. So we're not really just relying on taking the damage on the warping part, but we are already breaking the armor and doing the voltaic mark on the enemies when we just hit them with the earthquake. I really like this version. This seems to be, for me, also a very good version of making the build make much more damage when you're not on as high-end gear as some of the other versions here. So voltaic mark, lightning warp, and then the meta energy gain combo of impetus and energy retention. We also have 2 mace strikes, one for weapon set 1 and one for weapon set 2 for just single target damage. So cooling strike, hemo crystals, incision, and lacerate on weapon set 1, and for weapon set 2 it's going to be swift affliction, break posture, discombobulate, and demolisher. This we just use for single target damage when we actually just need to finish off a rare or something, where we're just warping around, we're just killing stuff with our earthquake and a rare is left over or something. We just hit them with the mace strike to just finish them off. The next single target spell here is going to be Ancestor Warrior Totem. This is actually the biggest part of our single target damage when it comes to like map bosses or something. This is definitely a part of this build that is still very much lacking in my opinion, and is something I want to improve on over the next few days, and is going to be the main focus of improvement for this build over the next few days. But the main single target damage here is going to be Ancestor Warrior Totem with Rolling Slam, Heavy Swing, Close Combat, Heft, and Concentrated Effect. The next one is again for clearing. Our main clearing tool with the chaining here is going to be Herald of Thunder. This, as most of you know by now, the Heralds are just amazing for clear, and the Herald of Thunder here does a lot of work for clearing. So Herald of Thunder with a long shot, with Innervate, with Elemental Focus, Defy, and Primal Armament. This just procs over and over and over again, and we just clear everything in a heartbeat. Another movement and single target skill here, Leap Slam is very good at also finishing off rares, and also putting some stun build up on bosses, for example. Leap Slam is very good. You can also use this to move around a little bit. So Leap Slam we are using with Momentum, with Fire Infusion, Execute, Aftershock, and Reverberate. So both a single target measure, also a stun build up measure, and a movement measure. Also here, the first next 30 spirit, I should say, is going to be Time of Need. Time of Need is incredibly good. I can't believe how good this spell is. Basically, every few seconds, every time you see it here, every time I just light up a little bit, you can see it when I regain my my life here. Every time my life fills up, that means Time of Need is getting procced. So this is one, and then the next one. This is every time the Time of Need procs here. This is also due to the lower skill effect duration. So Time of Need, every time this procs, we recover 600 life. It removes all curses and all elemental ailments from our characters. So Time of Need, incredibly important here. Very good skill. So if you only have 60 spirit, for example, priority number 1, Herald of Thunder, priority number 2, Time of Need, and everything else you can get. I am running with 231 spirit here. You need, at the most, you need 220 for the setup that I am running here. But if you, let's say, have only 100 extra spirit or 60 extra spirit, the priority here is going to be Herald of Thunder, Time of Need, and then the next one would probably be Blink or Blasphemy. So in that case, Blink is the next one. I am using some spirit on here. This just makes the character even more mobile. We're warping around, we're blinking around. I'm using Blink here on weapon set 1 with Ingenuity and Arcane Tempo. Next one that is also using spirit is going to be Blasphemy with Vulnerability in there. This just increases our damage automatically. Everything around us gets its armor broken, basically gets minus armor, so we do even more damage. So Blasphemy with Vulnerability, Ritualistic Curse, and Unbreakable. Inferno Cry is a very good measure in buffing up our next Leap Slam or our next Mace Strike. This is also for single target damage. I'm still experimenting a little bit here with single target damage measures. And the next extra spirit one, if you have another 30 spirit to spend, you can use Wind Dancer here with Bludgeon, Life Thief, Maim, and Blind. This is basically a small defensive layer. I know we do not have evasion here, of course. We don't get the evasion multiplier from this. This is basically just a vessel to when we are actually hit by something. We are consuming one of the stages here. Enemies are getting knocked back and getting some damage. So every time something hits us, it gets bludgeoned, it gets knocked back. It gets, we get some life steal from that due to Life Thief. Also, they are getting mimed and blinded when they hit us. So you could also use, for example, Arctic Armor here, but Wind Dancer is the best one since it's dealing physical damage when actually something is hitting us, while Arctic Armor is doing cold damage. So this is the skill setup that I am running here. Like I said, the main objective over the next few days is going to be innovating on the skill gems here and finding a way to have more single target damage to stay up to date. Yeah, if you want to theory craft with us in stream, if you have some ideas, join the stream and theory craft with us. Next thing is going to be the passive tree. So going over the passive tree here, we will start at the Titan Ascendancy points. The first 4 points, always the priority here is going to be going into hulking form. This is always going to be given in any of this build here. The next ones for me are the Stone Skin and the Mysterious Lineage here for more tankiness. If you don't care that much about tankiness and just want to increase your damage, and you don't care that much about having more maximum life and more body armor, then you can also go into Earthbreaker and Ancestral Empowerment. This will massively increase your damage from your slams of the Earthquake. So this is basically the damage option. The one I'm going with here is the defensive option. So on the passive tree, which will also be in the mobilytics, of course, you can see there's a differentiation here between weapon set 1 and weapon set 2. Basically on weapon set 2, when we actually have to do single target damage, we switch to our weapon set 2 here, and then these green lines are activated, which boosts our Ancestral Warrior Totem. So everything in the green lines here, you can see, is going to be weapon set 2, and this is just mainly for the use in single target fights and boosting our Ancestral Warrior Totem to do more damage, to have a faster, to have more life, to have a faster totem placement speed, to have more attack speed, stuff like that. So other than that, the passive tree is pretty straightforward. We are going into a lot of strength. We're going into a lot of keystones like Giant's Blood here, and the other keystones like Resolute Technique and Blood Magic here, of course. So very straightforward, very, very easy to do here. So other than that, big area of effect, big melee damage, big leech, everything that a warrior just wants. The passive tree, of course, will also be in the mobilytics. As soon as something changes about the passive tree, I will update that as soon as possible. This is the version that I'm currently running here. We will find some more innovations, of course, once I also level up and get some more points. It will probably go into more jewel slots here. On the jewel slot case here, the jewel slot priorities in the stat lines here are going to be melee damage, damage with maces, amount of life leeched, rage on hit. Also, what we want is some area of effect. Again, here, area damage with maces, attack damage, stuff like that. Here, for example, area of effect, increased armor, amount of life leeched, stuff like that. This is the priority you want in all of your jewels. Let's find another jewel here. This one has stun build-up, melee damage, damage with maces, and again, life leeched. So, passive tree, everything else in the mobilytics, you can check it out there. If anything changes, you will know first on my stream. So, this is going to conclude this video as well. Once again, I should say big shout out to Aste, who absolutely innovated on this build and made this build, in my opinion, what it is today. So I'm kind of just riding on his coattails here with this version of the build. I will find some more innovations here for the build, and we will keep the recrafting on this one, as this is super fun to play. So if you want to keep up to date on that one, join the stream. We'll be happy to see you there. So I will stop yapping now. Thank you so much. See you on the next one. Bye bye.